Hello everyone, welcome to Operations Management Unit number 7. Today we're going to be talking about mostly inventory in the supply chain and how it affects our operation. So, first of all, we have one video here of how the Starbucks global supply chain works. And then, of course, I want you to think a little bit about it. What are some of the challenges of the supply chain for them in terms of their operation? What happens when you don't have a standardized product? When you have a lot of inventory, especially the freshness of the coffee? So look at it, and then I think you will see, like for example here, how they are vertically integrated, because they started as a coffee shop, and they integrated the roasting plants. Well, actually, they acquired Starbucks. If you don't know that, lots of very long story, but to cut it short, the guy that opened the Starbucks, he used to work for a Starbucks, which was how to say, they used to buy the grains only, but there was no cafe itself. He opens a cafe with some ideas, and then the cafe starts to become successful, and then he vertically integrated the production, and actually he bought at Starbucks, which was the distributor of the grains. Anyways, that one you can search for it. This is a different video, and it's a different story. It's just talking about the supply chain itself. Okay, so in this case, we're talking about the supply chain management, which is maximizing value to the ultimate customer. So in this case, we have to make sure that all the goods and all the values are flowing effectively, because when we have excessive inventory, that means money that is stock money that is not moving. So that's the list that we want. Actually, here we have the example of Dell. Dell works with an excellent supply chain management, because actually they just have a pool production. They don't produce computers that they don't need. They mostly work on a business to business. But in the sense, like I said, they just produce what is needed. It's not like any other companies that have excess of inventory. And actually, that has worked fantastically for them, because in 2000 to 2010, it was their highlight, where they really started to make a lot of money because of the system that they used, that was very effective, right? The pool strategy. Okay, very good. So when we're talking about supply chain management, first of all, we have sourcing issues, which is make or buy and outsourcing. So first of all is the make or buy. Here you have the example of Peloton and their bicycles. So initially, Peloton started as a company that has the bicycle, these electronic bicycles that are connected with a screen, and they have a lot of training videos, and they involve you in the training. And anyways, this company started to become successful for the business model that they had. And initially, this one was outsourcing. They were outsourcing the bicycles from a Chinese company and a Taiwanese company, if I'm not wrong, the two of them. So comes a point where they say, should we continue buying the bicycles from them or not? We were already in a trial stage where we realized the business is successful, and we project that the numbers are gonna keep on increasing. So in this case, we rather make them. So we acquire those companies that manufacture the bicycles from us, and then of course, then now we produce, and then we set our own standards, and then of course we just produce bicycles for ourselves. So in this case, like I said, we always had to take that decision. Should I make it by myself, or I buy it from someone else, or just I outsource that operation to someone else? Maybe I don't have the time to be developing technology in terms of bicycles, etc., and then that's why I outsource it to someone else. Which initially, that's what happened. They didn't have the expertise on producing bicycles, and that's why they relied on a third party. In this case, like I said, for example, during this COVID, this Peloton company has increased their numbers dramatically, and then they had to take very different actions in order to catch up with the supply. You can check this article, and it's very interesting. Okay, very good. Some people that have taken other classes with me will say like, this guy keeps on talking about Peloton. Yeah, it's a talk of the town. There's many cases right now focusing on that. So anyways, we have again the supply decisions. Like I said, they have we have the strategy. We need to understand, right? In this case, we have to understand, for example, we have a primary supplier selection criteria. So we maybe gonna focus on low cost, and then the response strategy, capacity, speed, and flexibility, and then differentiation strategy could be different product development skills, different products, etc. So we have different ones. The supply chain inventory. We also have low cost, which is no inventory. Response strategy, we'll see depending on how much consumers we have, and differentiation, we minimize inventory because we want new products. Okay, we have the distribution network. In this case, we are looking mostly for inexpensive transportation and sell through discount and distributor retailers. We try to, rather than having our own distributors, we search for someone that can distribute it cheap and quickly. And then, of course, in the other one, we're talking at, well, the response strategy. Again, we're talking of when the consumer needs it, we should be able to put it in the market as quickly as possible. So in this case, we focus more on having immediate response, and we already have a set or a network of suppliers. And then differentiation strategy, if we go for differentiation strategy, the distribution network is going to work in the sense that I have my own distributors, and they provide a lot of information for me, and they are able to tell me the trends and how to differentiate, how they are purchasing, how the consumer is behaving, so that I can react to that. And then we have the product design. In a low-cost strategy of the supply chain, we are focusing mostly on how to make the production cheaper. So in this case, less materials, less components, and that's it. And then, of course, in the differentiation, we're talking more about modular design. So in this case, like I said, we have modules. There's the basic area, but if we change A, B, and C, D, is a completely one. Like we talk about Harley Davidson, right? So that happens a lot of. In the response strategy, the same. We use also a lot of modular design because we have to react quickly, right? Very good. So this one, again, is corporate strategy in terms of supply chain decisions. Which decision I'm going to take? So now let's talk about sourcing. So in sourcing, that means how we are going to get the supplies, right? And then we have a couple of strategies. So first of all, we need to negotiate always the best price, the best quality, but at the same time, we also need to understand what are our needs as a manufacturer. So let's say, for example, you have a couple of options for suppliers. One can give you the products that you need whenever you need, day or night. You need a pull production, like I was saying. In this case, you have a strategy of pulling. In this one, like I said, we have a response strategy, like Dell. In this case, I need suppliers that can supply me as quickly as possible. We're talking that when Dell started, their business response was up to 30 days. Now they are 6 days. So whenever you order from Dell, 30 days you have to wait until you receive, maybe because they had to pull all the sources from many places, from many different plants, but nowadays it's only 6 days. So anyways, there are suppliers that can supply you anytime, but it comes at a cost. You want me to supply anywhere, anyhow, anytime, good, but that's going to cost you. Or it can be lower cost, but if you want something, then you have to wait until I have it available. So maybe it could be 1 week, it could be 6 weeks, etc. Right? Very good. So now, again, going back to this one. So we have in the first one, negotiating with many suppliers and playing one supplier against another. This strategy, to be very honest, in real life seldom works because usually suppliers of the same products already are like a mafia. They say, we set the price for this and we don't go any lower than that. So playing suppliers against other, although the book says it, in reality, no. But anyways, it is a strategy. Whoever wrote this book maybe never experienced this thing. We have second, developing long-term partnership relationship with a few suppliers. That, of course, that's a strategy, right? Rather than having and changing, because there's companies that say today I work with you, tomorrow I work with them. So rather than establishing long terms, they just play based on price, and suppliers don't like that much because in the end, today you order me 10,000 units, yesterday tomorrow you don't order anything. So it's tricky for them. It's tricky for suppliers because they want to keep the business stable. So they rather stable suppliers than than fickle-minded suppliers. Sorry, buyers. And then we have, of course, another sourcing strategy is vertical integration. Like I said in the peloton, you become your own supplier. That's vertical integration. I need bicycles, I make my own bicycles, and that's it. Simple as that. We have joint ventures. I have another company that works with me, but we work as brothers, right? You manufacture the bicycles, in this case, for example, and then you're a company that manufactures them, and then I commercialize them, and so we work together, and then we just rely on each other. Your survival depends on me, and my survival depends on you. We have the Keiretsu networks, and this one I have it in here. So Keiretsu networks, that is a very Japanese thing, but like it happens, for example, in Silicon Valley, which is suppliers who become part of a company coalition. So in this case, for example, you see how all these companies work together in terms like for Toyota, for this one, AC Denso, they work together. They are not integrated by any document, by anything, but they trust each other, they work with each other, and they work the prices with each other, and that's it. Okay, very good. And then, of course, virtual companies. So in this case, we have virtual companies. Also, that is a very new approach. Before, companies used to buy companies, right? Acquisitions. So nowadays, it's not necessary anymore. If I want to have a vertical integration technology sufficient and good enough for me to have a system that is connected to my suppliers, and I don't need to own them. I just need to have a good communication with them. Usually acquisitions used to happen because I wanted to have a complete control of the information flowing, but nowadays it is possible. So companies that don't want to acquire other companies, they just set an ERP system. They have a good communication with the other ERP system of the other company. They set up systems that have back and forth communication, and pretty much that's it. So here we have risks, some of the risks. So we have, for example, supplier failure to deliver, supplier quality failures, etc. So risk, in this case, for example, we have supplier failure to deliver. Again, we work with multiple suppliers. If they are always competing, because I buy in volume, you fail, I have competitor B. So they always fighting for each other, which is similar to what I was saying here in this case in many suppliers, right? And playing once against each other, not in price, but in competition, based who buys that one. Quality failures is also the same thing. But in this case, I will take care of selecting the suppliers, monitor them, and of course, sharing with them. That means if I sell more products because of the good quality and the quality never fails, I will continue engaging with you. Outsourcing. Problems with outsourcing can be that there's many problems with outsourcing. It could be firstly that they are stopping to produce in the way that you want, or that they start to steal some of your products designs or so. We can have also distribution problems. We have to understand our distributors, how they are working. We need to manage them. We need to see how they are taking care of our products, and then they sell them with the due diligence that we need. We have also in the supply chain risk, another risk is this information or loss or distortion. That seldom happens again, because again, electronic systems are becoming very, very efficient. So information loss is not really happening. These databases now are cloud-based. There's no servers, so this is actually a bit old if you ask me. We can have, well, let's talk about all this one, which is more of pest. Okay, so in this case we can say that there can be a political, economic, social, technological risks to the supply chain. It could be because of the weather, you don't get the supply chain, maybe the country has a new taxation, etc. So that one is just like that. Right? Very good. So going back to that one, managing the integrated supply chain, also one of the biggest issues that has been solved by the ERP systems or inventory systems is the bullwhip effect. So the bullwhip effect is exactly what happened with the Corona one, which is we started to pull too much material, and then of course the production was not ready. And then comes the second wave, which is, for example, now the consumer has too much toilet paper, and then the factories were started to produce based on the numbers of the demand, but there's no demand again. Okay, this was a very big issue. So this bullwhip effect is mostly, like I said, sometimes the sellers over demand, and then the producers underproduce, and there's not enough flow of information, or there's a miscalculation, right? Sometimes suppliers don't understand why they are selling more, and it could be for many factors, but again, this happens, and then we have to find a way to solve it. Okay, so we have here opportunities for effective management in the supply chain. So we have, again, pool data. In this case, like I said, we have pool product. That is, again, lean systems. Lean systems means that we, rather than have an inventory, we just work with the inventory on hand. That's it. We don't overproduce. We just produce what the consumer wants, and that's it, which is the ultimate way of production. We have single stage control of replenishment. So in this case, we fix responsibility for monitoring and managing inventory for the retailer. So in this case, like I said, we look at what the retailer has on hand and we replenish accordingly. And that goes together with the VMI, which is the vendor managed inventory. So in this case, we see what the retailer has on hand and we replenish accordingly. That's actually, these all two go together. And again, ERP nowadays is managing all of this. This is, again, very, in theory this works. In practice nowadays, all the software does it. So we just need to understand what the system is doing, which is doing all of this. We have the collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment. So in this case, we see, again, suppliers and buyers see how much they have from each other, and then we pull or push. But again, this software is already naked. When we have the standardization, so in this case, also these ERP systems make sure they standardize the products and the production itself. Electronic ordering and fund transfer, the same thing, is paying for those inventories, for those supplies, but also these ERP systems take care of that. They already just send the order and it's already paid on it, or it's already deducted automatically from the supplier. This didn't happen before. This one happened before is like when I ask for order for the supplies, I need to wait for the payment and it comes in 1 month after and they didn't pay. Nowadays, company says, you want to work quickly, I supply you whenever you want, and then you get your payment automatically deducted from my account. This is my account and that's it. If there's any problem with the payment, of course, we'll talk about it. The same thing with the blanket order. So it's, again, a long-term purchase commitment to a supplier for items that are to be delivered against short-term releases to ship. So in this case, we have a long-term agreement with a supplier, but it's on the basis that when I need something, I need it right here, right now. Okay, very good. So we have also postponement, another strategy or another thing, which is exactly like I said for the Harley Davidson, which is we send a certain product only, the shell, and then the things can be put on later, and that of course You can create different products with that. And then we have the drop shipping. This drop shipping, again, is creating online catalogs to move supplies according to whoever they need them. This was the case of Alibaba. Alibaba started actually with e-catalogs for business to business. That's how they started to grow. Rather than focusing on e-commerce for business to consumer, they were focusing on business to business. So whenever you were looking for a supplier of X thing, Alibaba will come up and say, there's all this list of suppliers. So that one has improved a lot, because before time, looking for a supplier of a certain thing, that meant that you had to go to that country, visit some suppliers, talk to them, get some agreements, fly back, tell your bosses, come back and fly again, agree with it, and it was a ping pong back and forth, which nowadays with one email is solved. Okay, very good. So we have here. So here let's talk about a little bit of building the supply base. So in this case, we have the 4-stage process. So we have, first of all, we need to evaluate suppliers. We need to understand what quality, what quantity, how they produce, etc., the methods they produce. We need to understand how they work. Then, of course, we have to do the supplier development. We have to we have to give them instructions of what they have to do for us and how to do it for us. They also evaluate us back and they say, okay, I can follow this process. This one cannot because I'm producing for another company, etc. Then comes the negotiation, which is okay, you agree that we have 3 options of suppliers. 2 suppliers already can comply with what I ask them to do, or most of it. Then we negotiate how much, when, how often I will supply, and then of course comes the contract, which is the last one, which is we already agree to supply at this time, at this price, or we set certain agreement. So in this case, we have measuring the supply chain. So in this case, we have the supply chain operations reference. So in this case, for example, we have the 5 parts, which is the plan, source, make, deliver, return. So pretty much it's just a process where it says where we need the supplies. We need to plan how much we need, who's the supplier, when we're going to produce it, when we're going to deliver it, and if there's goods that need to be returned or shipped, then they will be shipped, and if there's any refunds, then how we will get them back. So what are the functions of inventory? Why we decide to have inventory? Like I told you, first of all, inventory is not too good because it means it's money that is not moving. So let's say, for example, in here, like here, I have a lot of cotton kept, no? So fantastic, but it means money that is not moving. Until I produce it and I make it a share, that means it's thousands of dollars, their stock. So in this case, some companies decide to have inventory because they want to anticipate customer demand. They know maybe, for example, in winter, they will have to produce more shirts or so. So in this case, better have it in advance. Maybe when the price is good, in this case, for example, it could be to hedge against inflation or fluctuation of prices. Maybe I'll buy the cotton when it's the good price because it's the crop season, as compared to waiting for winter that I don't have much of it. Okay. Maybe we have it to decouple various parts of the production process. So for example, in this case, there might be some there. I go back to this one, which is here. All right, where I have it. Here it was. Sorry. When it goes, no, it was not this one. I lost it. Anyways, we have the modules. So in this case, I have the modules. And then, of course, like I said, we decouple them. We have the modules. So a certain part of the module, I have it on inventory, but then the additional pieces, then I will buy them on a different basis. And of course, I can For me, the basic part, let's say for example, for the motorcycle, if I have an inventory of the main part or the main engine, that's fantastic because it saves me a lot of time. And then just the additional parts, then of course they can come at a later time. So having an inventory of that is good. Taking advantage of quantity discounts, like I said, in this case also can be terms of price. I already talked about that. Okay, very good. So we have different types of the inventories that we have. We have raw material, which is it hasn't been processed. Work in process inventory means it's already being processed. This cotton, for example, is already on the machines and it's already been produced, but I still have it on hand. I still need to put it somewhere else once I finished. Then we have MRO inventory. This is more about the machines that I have, how they are working, when they are producing, when they stop producing, etc. And then we also have the finished goods inventory. This cotton already is shared, right? So very good. So managing inventory, we have to understand which products we need the most because of how much we need, how often we need it, and the importance of it. And then of course we have to cycle counting. Cycle counting is when it starts, when I purchase the cotton, how it moves to the machine, how I produce it, how I put it, how I distribute it, etc. So in this case, I need to constantly understand whether is in the raw material, is in the process, or is in the finished good inventory. Okay, so we need to understand, we need to assess our material, and we need to understand, for example, if there's, for example, shrinkage. It could be maybe because it's spoiled. It could be maybe we're producing and it's spoiled. Maybe it can be it got lost, it got damaged. It happens. For example, maybe sometimes some of the containers for shipping, they sink. You'll see, you can Google some container ships sinking. They're like so funny. And anyways, pilferage also, that can be theft. No, it can be some of the materials were stolen or so, and then of course we need to make up for that inventory. Usually shrinkage and pilferage, they are not a big issue when it comes to money because most of our merchandise is insured, but it's operationally conflicted because it creates a conflict because we need to replenish it. The consumer is expecting, the retailers are waiting for it, and if we have any shrinkage or pilferage, we still need to make up for that, and we need to do it as quickly as possible. Okay, so in your assignment, this is part of your assignment, you're gonna do the ABC analysis. So I want you to read this one carefully, but I'm just gonna go very slowly through it, which is very simple. This is a very simple calculation, which is based on the annual volume of units. Means based on the quantity, based on the cost of it, we will determine what is the annual dollar volume. So in this case, let's say for example, I have 1,000 units. They are expensive because they cost 90,000, or this one is like 500 and they cost 90,000, 990, 90, I was thinking in Korean ones, and 154. You see, each unit cost is very high as compared to this one that is only 60 cents. So this inventory is very expensive, and annually I need a lot because of the quantity. I need 1,000. You see, this one is 60 cents and 250. So actually, $150 is irrelevant. If I lose this, if I don't need this, it's not a big deal, right? But having a big inventory of these things is not useful. Why? Because in the end, I can acquire them, and actually, let's say for example, having this in inventory, maybe it doesn't represent that much of financial burden for me. But here, for example, if I'm looking at these two items, item 10,000, well, this number, 10,286 and 11,526, the stock number, these two have $90,000 and $70,000. Okay, so they represent 72% of the cost of my inventory. And this is troublesome, again, because if I want to have this stock and these things don't move, I have them in inventory. Yes, they are critical, but I have a lot of money stock if I don't have any demand. So you have to be very careful. So that's why we do the ABC. So we said which items are A, which items are B, and which items are C. So in this case, like I said, here the breakdown in ABC categories is we will set A, I need to move them quickly or not have much inventory. C, they don't affect me that much. Okay, so in this case, we also have the inventory models. We need to understand that we have cost associated with having inventory. So for example, holding it can be because of we don't have a warehouse or we need someone to keep it for us. We also have the cost of the ordering process, how much it involves to cost to distribute it, to put it, to place it. We also have to calculate the setup cost, which is the cost to prepare a machine to process all this in terms of electricity, in terms of time, etc. And then of course the setup time, which is how long it takes up to set up the machines to produce this thing. We need to calculate all of that because we cannot just say, I have the inventory there and I can start the machine. No, we need to set them up in order for them to be ready. Okay. This one I'm gonna, the basic economic order quantity. This is more of supply chain and I'm not gonna go through it much. I'm just gonna tell you roughly what it is and that's all, which is, it's a calculation where we measure just exactly how much we need for the production. So in this case, rather than having excess of inventory, we do a calculation based on previous calculations of the previous years. We do the calculation, and fair enough, we just understand how much we need. We need to calculate the lead time, which is again the setup time, the production time, and based on that, we will decide how much we need. Okay, so this one, the economic order quantity works very well, but again, in real life, it's already produced by software. It tells us already, there's already AI that already predicts it and forecasts it. And the only thing that we have to do as humans is say, go or not. Do we have the money or not? So, and again, this economic order quantity is also a very old part of it, part of supply chain. Okay. And then of course, with all of these things, we have to think of the reorder points, which is when we will ask for inventory again. Okay. So in this case, we have a time between placement and receipt of an order, which is the lead time. A lead time is the process, how long it takes. So in this case, if I know that if I want to, I'm going to produce like that. I'll take the example of the cotton. I produce the cotton, I produce a shirt, and then I finish it. That takes me maybe 6 days or 3 days. I don't know. Let's say lead time is 6 days. That's what the process it takes, right? So then I go to the lag time. So in this case, I see the previous processes and I make some averages, and based on that, I will reorder it. So that means that I have a working inventory and the lead time is 6 days. So if I need to reorder for the next set of production, I need how many days in advance or so. So in this case, those are the reorder points when we need to do it. In this case, also, we need to understand how quickly the suppliers can do it, because maybe I have the lead time. So I have a working inventory into 6 days, but also the supplier takes 14 days. So maybe I need to ask, maybe out of those 14 days, I have to order at least in 6, right? And then of course, there will be 1 week that is inactive. So be it. But again, usually this thing is already calculated, but it also depends mostly on the demand. Here we're talking, for example, about a safety stock, which is having some extra in case we have higher demand. Some of the suppliers, some of the producers ask for extra stock in order to cover for anything that happens, or if they want to produce some extra more for the next season, etc. So anyways, that's a safety stock, which is good. In this case, the safety stock avoids us to have emergencies, but again, also a safety stock may end up being redundant material that I have to waste, and that means a cost. Okay, very good. That's all for today. If you have any questions, please let me know.